Hey y'all, this is the coding sensei here. I'm kind of on a streak here with my videos, and I wanted to address this about coding boot camps. So coding boot camps are, and I'll tell you a funny story. I actually was enrolled in one for 1 week. Okay, I forget the name of it. I actually think they went bankrupt. My class was the last class before they had went bankrupt, but it was typical. It was like a $20,000 thing. You paid like $1,000 to get a seat initially into the program. I think it was a, how long was it? Maybe it was 2 or 3 months, something like that. Maybe like 3 months program. It's like 8 hours a day, like a full time job kind of program. And I remember, and so here's the thing: they send you all this prerequisite material, like come in prepared, learn these things, get a basic understanding. So I took, and this is when I first discovered Udemy. Okay, so I took a course on Udemy, and I got a little. Looking back on it, I was a little bit overconfident. I was thinking like, why am I spending $20,000 when I'm learning this stuff on Udemy? And I was a little crazy back then, so I ended up deciding to not go through with it. Um, but their kind of their thing was you do it for 2 or 3 months, and then they help you get a job with their networking, and they probably had a few companies that were lined up. I don't know how everybody did. I don't know, but yeah, that was my little story. But it kind of took off from there because I decided like, oh well, I should I can learn on my own, right? Because my initial feeling of going to a coding boot camp was that, I'm reading these books. I had these books by John Duckett, HTML and CSS, and I'm at home in my apartment, and repetitively I'm reading the syntax. It's telling me about the tag. It's telling me about the all the attributes of the tag, and it's really just not clicking for me, right? And I figured, I'm like, there's no way that I can understand this and this HTML CSS, and I hadn't even coded anything in my life. Like I had played online games and stuff like that. I never coded anything at this point. I'm like, there's no way. I don't understand how all this comes together. How do you put the website up? Like, this is crazy. Like, it's so crazy how far I've come, but I had zero understanding of it, and I thought that I needed this boot camp to show me all this stuff, right? And that's really the reason why I had signed up for it initially. You know, and I've talked to a few people who have landed jobs from boot camps, and I would say that the reason why they did was because they already had a degree. There are a few cases where maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe they were just a bit more, talented or whatever. But I would say most of the cases were they had a degree already in something else. So the fact that if you can afford $20,000 in 3 months of your time not working, then I mean, go for it. I would personally suggest, if you don't have a degree, to go back to school, take my course, take whatever you like to take. But if you are already have a degree, I wouldn't spend the 20,000. I would just take a course like mine. You can go to Udemy. You can find some different stuff. I suggest mine because obviously I think mine are the best, especially when it comes to learning WordPress and building custom themes. But so, you know, um, should you jump into a boot camp? I don't think so. Let's let's be honest too. You're not going to learn how to code and be a programmer, a web developer in 3 months. You're gonna have a lot of rote memorization of maybe a few concepts, and you can maybe apply those concepts temporarily. It's kind of like to finish a test, but to learn how to be a good developer takes time, It takes years of time. I knew a guy who I worked with at one of my companies, and not one of my companies, but at a company, and he had his degree in digital marketing. He decided he wanted to be a programmer, so he was pretty good in the company. They let him um, around COVID. They let him switch departments when he came back, so he was working as a developer. So and he excelled really well, really fast, and he, you know, all things considered, he had learned web development in the span of maybe a year, you know, a year and a half, but he was working in the environment to learn it. So he understood how it was professionally from the beginning. And that's how he was able to learn it very quickly. I was stupider in a sense. I didn't understand how it was put together. I had my first job and I learned, but everything came really slow to me. It was really hard for me to understand PHP. It was hard for me to understand metadata between WordPress and how to. I didn't understand the loop. I didn't understand any of that stuff. CSS was hard enough for me. So that's, you know, the position I come from, and that's why when I teach it now, it's from a position of like this was hard for me to understand. I'm not a whiz kid with this stuff, you know, but with a lot of hard work and time and focus, you do learn this stuff and you do apply it. So should you go to a boot camp? If you can afford 20,000, I don't think you should. I think my course is cheaper. I think a lot of courses are cheaper, and you should just go that route and skip the boot camp.